The laughter wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut through Marcus's chest. "Pack your things, Marcus. We don't need people like you here," the manager said, his voice echoing across the office floor. His words weren't just a dismissal, they were a dagger dipped in prejudice. Marcus froze, his fingers trembling over the keyboard. He had been the first to arrive every morning, the last to leave every night. He had trained new employees, solved problems others couldn't touch, and poured his entire heart into this company. Yet here he was, discarded. Not for his performance, but for something he could never change, the color of his skin. Some coworkers avoided his eyes, ashamed of their silence. Others smirked, whispering behind their hands as if his downfall was entertainment. Marcus stood there clutching a cardboard box, his dignity bleeding in front of an audience that refused to see him as an equal. But what they didn't know was this. Marcus carried more than pain that day. He carried determination. They thought they had buried his future, but what they had really done was plant a seed. A seed that would grow into something so powerful, it would shake the very walls of the company that tossed him aside. Months later, those same employees would be forced to stand when he walked into the office again. Not as the man they mocked, but as the man who now owned everything they once tried to keep from him. This isn't just a story about losing a job. It's a story about resilience, revenge, and the rise of a man who refused to be broken. Marcus Johnson grew up in a neighborhood where opportunity was a rare visitor. Raised by a single mother who worked double shifts as a nurse, he learned early on that hard work wasn't optional. It was survival. By 16, Marcus was helping pay bills, juggling school and odd jobs. He wasn't the smartest kid in the class, but he was the one who never gave up. His teachers noticed his drive, though not everyone believed in him. "College isn't for kids like you," one counselor once said, as if his dreams were too heavy for a black boy to carry. But Marcus carried them anyway. He worked his way into community college, then earned a degree in business administration while working night shifts at a grocery store. He wasn't just chasing success, he was chasing respect. When he landed a job at Harlan & Co., a mid-sized logistics firm, he thought his life was turning around. He walked into that office on his first day in a crisp shirt his mother had ironed with pride, determined to prove himself. And he did. Within months, Marcus was the go-to guy for solving client issues. He had a talent for calming angry customers, for spotting errors in spreadsheets, for keeping projects on track. But behind the smiles of some colleagues, Marcus felt something darker. Subtle comments about how professional he sounded on the phone. Questions like, "Where are you really from?" Or, "Do you even golf?" He brushed it off, choosing to believe that hard work would silence the whispers. 3 years in, Marcus had saved the company from losing its biggest client by working a 72-hour marathon. Everyone congratulated him, everyone except his manager, Mr. Harlan's nephew, who muttered, "Don't get too comfortable." Marcus ignored it, believing performance would outshine prejudice. But when the layoffs came, he wasn't surprised to be called first. "It's not personal," they said. Yet the smirk in his manager's eyes told him everything. It was very personal. The weeks that followed were brutal. Marcus applied for job after job only to be turned away. Some interviews ended the moment he walked into the room. Others gave polite excuses. "We're looking for someone who fits our culture." He knew what that meant. Bills piled up. His mother, now older and tired, tried to reassure him, but Marcus saw the worry in her eyes. Friends suggested he take any job just to survive. But Marcus wasn't interested in surviving. He wanted to build something that would last. One night, after another rejection email, Marcus sat staring at his reflection in the darkened window. He remembered something his mother used to say. "If they don't give you a seat at the table, build your own table." That night, he made a decision. Instead of chasing another paycheck, he would chase ownership. With his savings and a small loan from a community credit union, Marcus launched his own logistics startup. It was nothing fancy, just him, a rented desk, and a laptop that froze every other hour. But Marcus had something his old company underestimated: hunger. He knocked on doors, called clients, and pitched his services with relentless passion. At first, people dismissed him. Some even laughed. But one small business owner gave him a chance. Then another. Slowly, Marcus built a reputation for being reliable, efficient, and fair. Meanwhile, Harlan & Co. was struggling. The same manager who had fired Marcus was driving the company into the ground with arrogance and poor leadership. Clients were leaving, and whispers of bankruptcy were spreading. When a big corporate contract opened for bidding, Marcus's company went head-to-head against Harlan & Co. The boardroom was tense. Marcus, dressed in a tailored suit, walked in with confidence. His old manager nearly choked on his coffee when he saw him. "Marcus Johnson?" he stammered. Marcus simply smiled. "Yes, representing Johnson Logistics." The contract presentation was fierce. Harlan and Coburn leaned on their reputation, while Marcus leaned on results. He showed how his small team had cut delivery times by 30%, saved clients money, and operated with transparency. He didn't just present numbers, he told stories of the small businesses his company helped grow. By the end, the room was silent. The decision was unanimous. Johnson Logistics won the contract. But the story didn't end there. Weeks later, Marcus received a call from an investment group. Harlan & Co., drowning in debt, was up for sale. And Marcus? He was their top recommendation as a buyer. The day of the acquisition, Marcus walked through the same glass doors where he'd once been escorted out with a cardboard box. Employees froze. Some gasped. And then they saw him shake hands with the board. Marcus Johnson was now the owner of Harlan & Co. His former manager sat pale and trembling. Realizing the man he mocked now signed his paycheck, Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't need to. His presence was victory enough. Marcus addressed the employees in the lobby. His voice was calm but firm. 3 years ago, I stood in this very building and was told I didn't belong. Today, I return not for revenge, but to rebuild. Because dignity isn't something you give a man. It's something he carries within him, no matter how hard you try to strip it away. Some employees bowed their heads in shame. Others clapped. Under Marcus's leadership, the company transformed. Diversity wasn't a slogan, it was policy. Hard work was rewarded, not skin color. His story spread across the city, then across the nation, inspiring thousands who had faced the same silent battles. At home, his mother cried tears of joy. "I always knew you'd be more than what they tried to make you," she whispered. Marcus smiled, not as a man who had been broken, but as a man who had rebuilt stronger. The company that once tried to bury him had become the soil for his greatest triumph, and that day everyone learned a lesson they would never forget. Never judge a man by his skin, or underestimate the fire in his soul. If you were Marcus, would you forgive them or would you make them pay?